Welcome back. Well, let's get a check on the oil market now. We see all futures ease from their highest levels in weeks as traders they're taking profit while waiting for a meeting of Federal Reserve later this week for indication of further rate cuts. Falls were limited, however, by concerns of supply disruptions in the event of more U.S. sanctions on major suppliers, Russia and Iran. Brent crude futures, that was down about 0.3%, $74.28 a barrel. WTI still managing to stay above that $70 psychological level, also down 0.4% in early Asian trade today. The Fed is expected to cut rates by a quarter of a percentage point at its December 17th to 18th meeting, which will also provide an updated outlook on how much further Fed officials think they will reduce rates in 2025 and perhaps in 2026. All right, we're going to join a live coverage now. That's for our viewers on DSTV. That's the Adamawa State 2025 budget presentation. But this goes on other platforms. All right, to other matters now. Dangote refinery has exported premium motor spirit to other African countries, including Angola, Ghana, South Africa, in the past few weeks. The vice president of the oil and gas Dangote Industries Limited, Devakuma Edwin, discloses while playing host to a delegation from Japanese business community in Nigeria, led by Japan's ambassador designate to Nigeria, Suzuki Hideo. The company's spokesman, Anthony Chejina, confirmed this, says that products from the refinery meet international standards already being exported globally. He also reiterates that the company's diesel has gone all over the world, and jet fuel is being heavily exported to European markets. Well, joining us now is Mr. Jide Pratt, Chief Operating Officer and Country Manager of Trade Grid. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Ladi. How are you?
I'm fine. So I guess this is the moment, we've been waiting for, saying that Nigeria should refine its own products and, by extension, export refined products. Talk to me about the implications of the Dangote refinery exporting, to these other African countries at this time. Is this the moment we've all been waiting for?
Okay, so first and foremost, compliment of the season, Ladi.
Compliment.
I think it's extremely important to note this. We saw this coming. You don't build a single train refinery, which is the largest in the world, with a high Nelson complexity index, and then not sell to the world. It doesn't make sense. What the Dangote refinery has been able to do is that, obviously, as they keep on ramping up production and capacity, we're going to get to a stage where the products that they refine won't be, let me say, in excess supply to Nigeria. So what do? You begin to foray into markets, first within the West African sub-region, sub-Saharan Africa, and this has started. Let's also remember that they've been selling jet fuel for quite a while into Europe through companies like Vitol and Trafigura. It's a good thing for Nigeria. It's a great thing for the refinery. So Cameroon is off the list now, Angola, Ghana, and South Africa. And I do hope they can sustain this over a long period of time. But a major plus for the refinery and, I dare say, for Nigeria as well.
Quality standards and certifications that ensure, the exported PMS meets, international requirements. Break it down for us. What exactly do they look out for?
So what it is, you remember when the refinery started, there was a statement around the fact that Euro V standards is where they had gotten to. Now, what this means is that ideally, if you have a refinery and the best grade in terms of certification is what we call Euro V, if you can get that, then what it means is that anybody looking for quality, you're the first right of refusal, in my opinion. They've been able to achieve that. A lot of, let me say, brouhaha when they started around the quality, that has been proven otherwise. So it does mean that if I'm looking for quality, if I'm within the African sub-region in terms of freight, it makes sense to be able to shorten my turnaround. Go where the quality is best. Price is a different conversation. Go where the freight advantage is a positive in my in my advantage as well. I take that off as well. So we're seeing more and more as the quality is becoming better and better and better. If you do compare to where you were getting before and the quality standards are much better, then that's where you would go. If the freight turnaround time again is shorter, that is where you would go. So what we see now is that countries within Africa are looking for where they can get sustainable supply over a period of time, high quality grades. If you drove into some stations in, let's say, places like Ghana, you'd see that they have what you call leaded, premium unleaded. So they have different grades in terms of quality. These are things that help Africa coming out of that refinery, and I think that's what a lot of people are looking for.
Right, and looking at most of these African countries, when you compare their PMS price per liter with that of Nigeria, we see some of them are mostly more expensive. What do you think this does for pricing, in these African countries?
So it's two things. Don't forget, we've talked about freight very, very quickly. If the freight distance is actually shorter, then you're at an advantage in these other African countries in terms of better pricing. Let's not also forget that the deeper your draft is, so every time you can bring in a larger vessel, you have more efficiencies. Most of these African countries do not have a large draft or a deep draft. So they have to try and, let me say, multiple handling. So you move from a big vessel to a small vessel to a smaller vessel, just to be able to come into your draft. When this happens, you're handling so many different charges, and that is what lifts most of the prices across West Africa. What this does for the Dangote refinery and for them is that the first things first, it reduces distance in terms of freight. Imagine coming in from Europe on a large vessel, getting to Africa, doing an STS offshore Lomé, going in with a smaller vessel into your location. Some of these depots are also so small that they can't take a full cargo. So it's now a case of discharge into tank. If you discharge into tank, you wait till the tank is full, move into another tank. Buying from the refinery is two things. And again, I must re-emphasize freight. Once the freight advantage is there, they might also be able to take in smaller vessels into just offshore the refinery and then go straight into their channels. So it does help them. But I think one thing we must also say is that what does this do for Nigeria? We used to be a net importer for so long. So begin to look at the balance of payments. The refinery is earning US dollars, while she has some foreign debts to pay in terms of US dollars. Don't forget that she's also going to process some of these transactions through her local banks. So it does mean that that paucity of FX is also something that begins to fade. The more transactions they do, the more US dollar transactions they do and export, then technically more inflows for Nigeria.
Right, and looking at the whole pricing drama in Nigeria for PMS, is there a risk that prices might stay? These countries importing Dangote's fuel might actually ability to sell cheaper. Is there a risk with that?
I'm not so sure it's a risk. I think it's more of a balance. So look at it this way. If the Dangote refinery decides that I want to sell X amount of PMS, this is my X refinery cost. If they sell that product, it should go to say that the closest place is Nigeria. So back to this freight we're talking about, the same way the freight advantage should work for a country in West Africa that used to buy from Europe, is the same way that freight advantage ideally should work for Nigerian coastal waters. So it should suffice to say that if I'm going to Calabar, if I'm going to Port Harcourt from Ekpe, efficiency-wise, than going into Ghana, because that's the farther distance. So I don't think it's a risk. I think it's more of a balance, deciding what they want to do. And then it becomes very, very clear that the market becomes Lomé. So they look at what is happening around Lomé, which used to be the hub of most of the West African trades. It's basically moving to places like Ekpe. If you hear things like Gongo is able to shut down a refinery because they're no longer profitable, it does mean it's not a risk again, Ladi, but it's a balance. It should always be cheaper, freight advantage-wise, to be able to sell to proximities closer to you than chartering a vessel to go outside. So right. I don't think it's a risk.
Well, Jide, as long as I pay cheaper than most of these other countries for PMS, I'll be okay with that. But what are the potential, political implications of Nigeria becoming a major fuel exporter in the region?
And Ladi, who should become a major fuel exporter?
That's Nigeria. Major fuel exporter. What's the implications?
Without a doubt, Ladi. I mean, back to what we're saying, the refinery 2,000 barrels a day. She hasn't hit full capacity. What a refinery would always do is that refinery will, as long as she has crude will always process, pack into distillates, and of course, we're going to become a net exporter. If they don't get food locally, they'll to bring in food, and then also have them. Yes, we will become a net exporter.
All right, fantastic. Looking out for that. Thank you so much. That was Jide Pratt, Chief Operating Officer, Country Manager of Trade Grid. I call him JP. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ladi. Cheers.
All right. So, yeah, the markets are open right now, right here in Lagos, Nigeria. We'll give you the sun by 1 p.m. But that's it for me on Business Morning. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things back to the Sunrise Daily team.